not to block that beautiful, let's see.
I'll slip over to your starboard here.
Yeah, it'll work. Okay, so thank you all for being here. Really exciting day for Arkansas. I'm gonna have to give a little background here to explain why we're here, what we're doing, what the catalyst for this is. First of all, one of the fundamental tasks of lawyers, historians as well, but lawyers, is to research and is to figure out what the case law says, what other sources, other documents say about the issue at hand. Some of them may shine light, some of those documents may provide guidance, shine light on the facts, some on the law. And research is just something we take for granted. To some degree, we can just get on our phones. We can access databases. We can search case law. We can certainly do it at our desk. We can grab the books that are replicated all over the state in our law firms. But the ability to search for words and phrases, etc. I mean, I went to law school a long, long time ago in the early 90s, and we could do that then, okay? So this is a fundamental part of being a lawyer and getting it right and getting the answer right or making cogent arguments. You've got to have good research. So in our state, with regard to our current Constitution and the previous constitutions, there's a lot of information out there that is technically publicly available, but it is not easily accessible. It is not searchable in the sense that I was just referencing, where you get on a computer and you search for a phrase. And in fact, it's very laborious to access some of the documents that relate to our Constitution. Now, that's problematic because our Constitution at the state level, as with other states, as with the federal system, our Constitution is our blueprint for our government. Our Supreme Court writes opinions on what they say the Constitution means. Lawyers around the state, including in my office, we opine, we write opinions on what we think the Constitution means. And what is odd is there's a lot of information that shines light on the meaning, that helps us know what it means. But we can't readily access it. So what's happening as a practical matter, day in and day out, and Professor Brill was on the Supreme Court, so he knows firsthand, not only as a professor, but as a Chief Justice. But what's happening is all of these actors that I've mentioned, lawyers for the state, judges, justices, etc., professors at the law school in Fayetteville, at the law school here, they're all teaching without all the information. Now, if that information was readily available and you didn't reference it, that might lead to something called malpractice, because you've got to do the work. You've got to do the research. That's what an attorney has to do, and it is assumed that you know what the case law says, for example, before you advise your client. So what we have here in this state, and we're not just talking about documents of a historical nature. That's not what we're talking about. We are talking specifically about documents that relate to our Constitution, our constitutional conventions. So yes, they are of a historical nature. But it's not just about history. We are talking about our Constitution. And what's interesting here is we live in a time, and rightfully so, where we reference our Constitution at the federal level with reverence. We talk about how important it is. We know that ours in the state has its flaws, but it's still our blueprint for government. Seems to me we have a responsibility. If there is, in fact, information about our Constitution, about our constitutional conventions, about all of this, we have that, but we have not made it accessible, then we must correct that. Because I don't want my attorneys, this office, opining on what the Constitution says or doesn't say, means or doesn't mean, without all of the available research. And there's a lot of research that's available that you just can't access. So this was made very clear to me when I had a couple of, or I think 3 staff for 2 weeks went over to the archives. I think they were dealing with you, Dr. Ware. And it took them 2 weeks to find what should have taken them just a few hours of searching. And they had to maneuver through what rats had left behind, which cannot be good for the integrity of the documents at issue. And so we got to fix this. So I started thinking, wait a minute. I know someone, because of my experience, personal experience, educational experience, I know someone I've known for years, Dr. Nicholas Cole of Oxford University. He has the Quill Project. What's the Quill Project? Well, the Quill Project, and Dr. Cole will talk a little bit more about it in detail, but generally speaking, it is an attempt to do for the states in terms of creating a searchable legal database of constitutions and the related documents, correspondence, journals, proceedings. It's an attempt to bring all 50 states' constitutional documents together in a searchable way, much the way the federal government has already done, because the federal government had the resources and has done this. And so Dr. Cole has been working on this as a professor of American history at Oxford for years. And I thought, we need to do this here. So we not only need to get our house in order and get these documents digitized and searchable for us, but after that is done, we need to link it to this broader research database where you can search constitutions regionally, nationally. You can look for phrases. You can research the origin of terms, all of that sort of thing. And so I thought, we should find a partner here in the state who can lead this effort. Because what I want to do is help fund this effort in the state. And then that partner can work with the Quill Project once we get this data and put it into a broader searchable database. So I thought the University of Arkansas is our flagship university. I talked to the chancellor. I think I can say he was excited because he's here today. And I talked to a number of people. I talked to Dr. Ware at the State Archives, talked to Dr. Cole at Oxford, Mr. Battles, who's the head of the library You're the dean. Dean. Talked with him. He was excited. Professor Brill said, speaking as a professor and a former Supreme Court justice, and just probably the most respected authority on ethics in the state of Arkansas. There was excitement across the board. The dean of the law school in Fayetteville, Dean Nance, is here, and Dean Crawford is represented here. There's just excitement across the board. And then when Rodney Harris, Dr. Harris, who's here behind me, he's written a lot on this. He's a user of this stuff. There was just excitement across the board. So I said, okay, let's do this. I'll fund it using settlement funds. We should not go another generation talking about how much we admire and revere our Constitution and leave this work undone. Because in that case, our actions don't line up with our words. And so if we really care about our state's Constitution, if we care about what it means, we've got to do this. So I'm announcing today that I've set aside $1 million for the University of Arkansas to lead this effort through their library system, working cooperatively with everyone here and many more. But Mr. Battles, Dean Battles, will be the point of contact for this effort. And as we start to make progress and get our work digitized with the quality control that is required, this will become part of this broader Quill Project that Dr. Cole runs out of Oxford University. One thing I will mention before I turn it over to the Chancellor, a couple of things. We've got a lot of documents here. They are covered because of the lights could impact them negatively. So after this press conference is over, we will turn those lights down and we will turn these over, and you'll just get a sense of some of the documents live in person that we're talking about. But real quickly, I want to run through some of these that'll give you an overview of what we're talking about. And I want to mention Pembroke College, Oxford, is the college where Dr. Cole it's the college he's associated with. Oxford University is divided into a number of colleges. I must mention, I spent some time there, but more importantly, when Rockefeller, our lieutenant governor, was a student at Pembroke College, Oxford, and former University of Arkansas president, Senator Fulbright, was a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford at Pembroke. And so there are a lot of Arkansas ties here, and I'm just so proud of the collaboration. So what you've got is I am collaborating and partnering with the University of Arkansas, who will lead this and work with Dr. Cole with the Quill Project to make sure we fit into this broader international database asset. These are some of the types of documents that we'll be dealing with. And it's not the Constitution itself. That's relatively brief, and we know what's in there. But the documents relating to them, right? The journals, the minutes, the correspondence, even documents relating to the Brooks-Baxter War and all of the constitutional debate around that. There's a lot of different documents listed in this bibliography that was put together by Dean Battles. Some proceedings that relate to the 1874 Constitution. There's just a lot of different stuff. We'll give you copies of all this. There's some newspapers. We normally would not make newspapers a priority, but there are some newspapers that did a good job of capturing what was happening at the time, and we want to make sure that is searchable in the constitutional construct framework, manuscripts, and again, we'll get you all of this. I have no problem with providing this to you. These are some other published primary sources. And here's some examples. Now, this one is my favorite. So this is a U.S. military telegram from Abraham Lincoln. Yes, the Abraham Lincoln. And it was from, it looks like February of 1864. It says Washington via Leesburg, which is right outside of Washington. And the president at the time was sending a military telegram discussing General Steele, who was in charge here, his efforts to get a constitutional convention going. So that's an amazing document. There's just all sorts of, these are rules for the convention. We obviously have more than just these photographs. This is a letter from a member of Congress asking about the new Constitution. This was right after the 1874 Constitution. There's just a number of, this is a letter relating to the Brooks-Baxter War. And these are just samples of different sorts of documents that right now you cannot easily access. And the reality is most attorneys would never access any of these in their normal course of business. Are they missing something? Probably. Do we know that? No. We don't know what they're missing, what they're not missing. It's just unreasonable for anyone to have to go through all this. But if you can search it, that changes everything. I want to turn it over to the Chancellor. I'm very proud the Chancellor's here. Thank you, Chancellor.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney General. The University of Arkansas, as the state's land grant, is thrilled to be part of this project. Our whole purpose is to serve the state of Arkansas and to contribute to making the state better in every way. We know that this will support historical literacy. It supports our legal scholars and their better understanding of the constitutional era and all of the precedents and issues around it. And so we are happy to be part of this. As a historian, and I am a historian, and I was that before I became a chancellor at the university, I have worked with some of these documents in my research, and the idea of having them digitized is just fascinating and thrilling to me because I know that it will expedite and enhance understanding of this critical time in Arkansas history and American history. So again, we are happy and thrilled to be part of this and really appreciate the Attorney General and remembering the University of Arkansas and letting us play such a seminal role in this project. And so thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. Professor Brill?
Let me tell you why I am excited about the Quills Project from two perspectives. First, at the law school, I teach a course on the Arkansas Constitution. And it is important for the students to learn how to review the Constitution, examine the Constitution, and now to be able to go back to the foundational documents and see what it actually meant and what the drafters intended. And second, it is very important for judges. And let me give you a very simple example. When I was on the Arkansas Supreme Court, we had a case before the court that was factually simple, but it involved 3 words in the Arkansas Constitution: sufficient securities provided. What did those 3 words mean? And to answer that question, it was necessary to go back and go through all 5 Arkansas constitutions and to examine not just those 3 words. That's all I could do. But now I would be able to go back to the drafters and other documents to see what was actually intended by those words. And I think that going forward, this project, particularly as it ties into other states and is searchable across state lines, will be particularly beneficial to courts in the future. So I am excited that Arkansas is going to be able to participate in this project.
Thank you, Professor. Dr. Ware?
I too am delighted and proud to have been asked to be part of this project. My job today is Director of the State Archives. The official job title is State Historian. But for 19 years before that, I was Historian of the State Capitol Building. And during my early years there, I made the acquaintance of a remarkable man, Lieutenant Governor Rockefeller, who was fond of hijacking Capitol tours occasionally. He loved talking with people, and he was a great believer in knowing the Constitution. He'd send one of his aides down to his office to get a handful of pocket constitutions. Now, I remember what he said to one school group that he'd taken over. We were down in the governor's reception room, and he said, "Remember, the Constitution is like the manual of your new car. Get to know the manual and you'll know how to take care of the car." Same thing with the Constitution. I took those words to heart, and now, 20 years later, I head the agency that safeguards all 5 of Arkansas's constitutions in their original form. Our disaster plan basically consists of David grabs the constitutions and the Quapaw Treaty and runs. That's an honor I hope I will never have to do. But the constitutions are significant. The documents that support them, the documents that give light on how they were drafted, what was in the minds of those who had the responsibility of drafting them. Those are significant documents. We have some of them. The University of Arkansas has some of them. We know that others are out there somewhere. That's the great frustration of archives and libraries. We know there's more that we should have, but it's up in somebody's attic, hopefully going to fall into our hands someday. But the great challenge is giving access to what's in our collections. And this gives us an opportunity to make that access to what we have, what the University of Arkansas's libraries have in their collections related to the constitutions, make them available to people across the country, around the world, and please, within Arkansas. Recently, we ran a traveling exhibition taking pages of the Constitution to literally the 4 corners of the state. And each of the stops, we found people who would say, "I didn't know Arkansas had a Constitution." We're doing our best to make sure that nobody can say that with a straight face. And participation in this project will make that even harder. So we're honored to be a part of it.
Thank you, Dr. Harris.
Well, I'm honored to be here. I feel a little like the junior partner here, but I'm honored to be here. So my dissertation focuses on the 1874 Constitution, and as they've all said, we know what it says, but more importantly, what did the framers, and that's what I try to call the men who wrote it, they were all men at that time, but what did the framers intend? And sometimes, for instance, like Justice Burrell said, when you have those 3 words, you need to go back and find out what they meant. And so here's the big challenge. They left handwritten records, and they're not easy to read. And for whatever reason, they never published a printed journal like all the other constitutional conventions did. And maybe they were saving money, or maybe they just didn't want to publish it. We don't know. And they skipped a lot of records, too. They had a habit of going into a committee of the whole and not taking records. So we have big gaps, and that's where the newspaper comes in a lot of times. So that's what I have spent the last 13 years dealing with. If we had had the Quill Project 13 years ago when I started this, I could have finished my dissertation in 4 years instead of 6. It would have been wonderful. So this will be great for future scholars as well as attorneys and judges.
Thank you, Doctor. Dr. Cole.
I'm sorry, what is your name? I'm sorry, I don't know who you are.
Rodney Harris.
Dr. Rodney Harris. And you're currently at Williams Baptist
Yes,
University.
chair of the history department at Williams Baptist.
So I'm Nicholas Cole. I'm at Oxford Attorney General. Thank you so much for having me. It's a huge honour to be doing this project with you. I sometimes get asked, why is a Brit interested in state constitutional law, which is a fair question. The answer to it is in your state seal. It's written in Latin because it's important, but it says, "The people govern." And I've always been interested in what does that mean in practice? That doesn't mean a couple of wise people writing constitutions. It means groups of people negotiating them together. And so I've been working for the last decade on a project to really bring to life those debates at state level. When your constitution was written in the 1870s, few people knew how the federal constitution was written. That work had not been done. That work would be done at the end of the 19th century and early 20th century to really bring that to life for the American people. It's a huge thrill to be part of bringing the state story to life. So, Attorney General, thank you so much for spearheading this project, and it's going to be a delight to work with everybody here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cole. Anything else? Anybody? Okay. Well, I think we've provided a good overview. Happy to take any questions. And when we're done with this, we'll turn the lights down and show some of the samples. I think we even have the Abraham Lincoln telegram here.
So I just wanted to try, there's a lot of words I'm just trying to
Yep.
summarize. So you're giving $1 million to U of A who's going to digitize this. Then after the digitization, it becomes
Part of this broader project, yes.
How long is it going to take to digitize?
It's going to take a long time. I have no idea how long. It's going to depend on who we get to assist, to help with the actual digitization, how many we get.
And what we find.
What we find.
We may find things
This
we
is
don't
the
know
beginning. We have laid out an overview of what we know we have. There's so much we don't know. What I have done is set aside $1 million. It may cost less than that, but I've set that aside to just say, look, I'm with you on this. Let's get started. So the first step, I'm not in charge of it, but an educated guess would be the first step if you've got to figure out what is the universe of documents. Now we've got a bibliography that I showed you, but the University of Arkansas, through Dean Battles, is going to be leading this project. And I think it's going to be exciting for those of us who care about the Constitution, because we are going to discover things that we didn't know existed. But just with regard to the universe that we're aware of, that's a substantial amount of work. There are always excuses to be found as why something's never been done before. Well, it's time we do it. And the hard work is the good work. And that's what we're going to be doing.
I mean, 10 years, 5 years?
I can speak to that a little bit, if that's okay, sir. So we do as
Excuse my ignorance.
Yep.
oh, that's okay. So as the Attorney General indicated,
Give them your name.
my name's Jason Battles. I'm the Dean of Libraries at the University of Arkansas.
You're the guy in charge. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So what Dr. Cole and the Quill Project has done is it's provided this wonderful platform by which we can take the digitized materials, the things we digitize, and then we can put it into this platform. And what it is it's not just as simply searching documents and looking through documents. It interconnects documents so that you have the constitutions themselves, but you also have the convention proceedings, you have related newspaper articles around it, and so it builds the context by which decisions were made in the convention that eventually led to the final constitutions being produced. So it's more than just a website searching a constitution and documents. It is so intertwined and so interconnected. So as far as your question regarding the digitization, proceedings is one of the easy, low-hanging fruit pieces of this. So they have not been digitized. We have them. We can do some, what's called optical character recognition, so it can recognize handwriting and transfer it into something that is searchable.
And then you edit
Yes.
for quality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll add there that as part of my dissertation, I actually transcribed all 900 or whatever pages
So
of that.
so Dr. Harris has
that's
done
gonna
that
go
work.
We
in
can search
immediate-
that as soon as,
That can be put in immediately.
yeah, that's pretty quick.
And so this is a rolling effort. So we have the things that we know. We'll go ahead and start working on those, start digitizing those, start working with Dr. Cole to include those. So there'll be something available next year. And then it will continue to build. We'll continue to find new things. Yes.
We've been, I mean, yeah.
Yes.
But what he said about linking it to different things, the neat thing is not only is there newspaper stories about that day, but there's also letters to the editor from different factions in the state who are pushing for different ideas to be in the Constitution. So you get a sense of the politics on the ground and what could have been or what wasn't.
I want to do something here. Can you switch this over to, okay, so this is the Quill, you're the expert, Dr. Cole, but I'll just say, so this is the Quill Project platform, and can you show us that where incidences, you know, the graphic representation, I know who that is, the graphic representation, when you pulled it up, it showed.
If you go into tools, if you go into tools on
this one here,
that one there, and then phrase search.
There you go.
So I don't know what your favorite phrase in the American Constitution is, but due process of law.
Put due process of law in there, please. See what that does.
So this, to work out where that phrase comes from, would be really hard. You would have to read months of debate normally, but if you do a search, we can just show you, well, the first time that's ever debated in the data set we have is in the Bill of Rights debates in 1789. If you scroll down the list, we'll show you everywhere it's debated in all of the states conventions that we have. If you were to click into any of those moments, we would show you, you know, what was going on at that point.
If you click on a document, it'll show the actual document.
So we're trying to bring the material to life. And I want to address the point about timing as well, because we've done a lot of these projects, and two things are true. One is there's always more to find. So we don't quite know what's in the state archives till we really go hunting systematically to work out what's there day by day. But the other thing which is true is that we've worked with several state archives now, and I would be very upset if we didn't have at least the first convention proceedings all put in this format within about 12 months. And then we'll have to work both backwards through other state conventions and forward through processes of amendment in order to give you a comprehensive picture. But we aim to work quickly and efficiently. And
so how many states are part of the?
So we've if you are currently available, we've got about 5 states in the Northwest. We've got another 2 from the American West. We're working with a federal grant at the moment on pre-Civil War Constitution writing, which covers another set of states. So, and then we've got federal material as well. And then,
dozen states?
Yeah, about a dozen. Yeah, and then some international documents as well. And maybe one thing to say is, state constitutions are really important internationally. If you're writing the Australian Constitution at the turn of the 20th century, you can't go and talk to James Madison, but you can talk to Americans who've written state constitutions, and other countries do. So there is an international story as well, which is why we're interested as well in international.
Could you? I'm sorry.
Is there where are most of the existing documents now? Are they U of A or
Well, the
archives? Or
They're in different locations.
the five engrossed copies of the Arkansas Constitutions plus other documents.
Yep. I'm sorry. Yep.
Sorry. Normally I'm talking loudly enough so they keep the microphone away from me. The 5 state constitutions, as well as other materials, are located in the vaults of the state archives in the multi-agency complex, that flat-topped building right behind the state capitol. And they are, my office door is directly across from the vault door, which is why I get to run and grab them if necessary. We also have other materials. We also have newspapers, of course, and materials on microfilm, which will be hopefully contributing to this project. And due to our involvement with the National Digital Newspaper Program of the Library of Congress, we have so far 8 years of experience in not just scanning and filming, but also actually the work of digitizing materials. It's not as simple as it seems. You can't just scan it.
Yeah, and the U of A has
we have a series of both. We have a series of both manuscript collections from several former governors, several delegates, as well as newspapers, proceedings, and other related documents. We have also some microfilm that we plan to digitize as well. So we also have kind of a team that already works within our special collections and in digitizing material in our special collections. So we'll be utilizing that team and their expertise, not just for the digitization and taking pictures and putting these things online, but also descriptive work. And Dr. Cole and I will be working with his team, and my team will be working to determine, what are we going to do as far as the descriptive work on those items, what we're going to do as far as it's getting computers to essentially read handwriting and to translate it into something that you can type into a search box and find. And so all of those things are also part of this. So it's not just a matter of the digging and research, which is a huge part, and it's not just a matter of the digitization, it's also a matter of the describing the things and being sure that those things are readable and searchable as well.
Quality control.
Yeah.
So what was your attorneys looking for that took 2 weeks that should have took a couple hours?
They were writing an opinion. Noah's people were writing an opinion, and I don't have all the details in front of me, but I think they were looking up what specifically. Just were they looking up
The vote thresholds of previous constitutional amendments.
the vote thresholds of previous constitutional amendments? Could you show here, Paul? Yes. So there's not a lot of data points on this particular screen. Go up. Okay. Yeah. So could you explain some of that?
If you want to know, it's very easy to cherry pick in constitutional documents. It's very easy to find a speech that seems to say what you wanted to say. So one of the things we try and do is give you a kind of guide to understand the context. So we followed in through that search. We found a moment when the phrase due process of law is being introduced into the House of Representatives. So we've got a map here of the debates that led to the Bill of Rights in the House of Representatives. And we show you the committee structure, so you can get a sense of where in the committee structure you are. And then during the day, we have a timeline of proposals and amendments. And then further down the page...
Yeah, so these are the separate...
Committees.
These are the different committees, and these are the incidents where the phrase due process of law
is being discussed. And then if you scroll down the page, we give you a kind of representation of debate that day. Not a lot happened on this particular, but they're receiving a report from something called the Committee of the 11. And then we can show you that report. And then over here we show you a transcription of the various documents that mean that we know that that event happened. And further down we can give you the PDFs and so on. So, and we can tell you who was a member of that committee at that time, and which delegations were a member of that committee. So we try and give you the richest possible sense of what was the context in which this particular discussion happened.
Perfect. Okay.
So in layman's terms, it's like a real intimate version of a like Ancestry.com type family tree.
For documents, or track changes on steroids, if you want to think of it like that.
And then that
yeah.
$1 million proposal, would that also go to revitalization of the story of documents so that they can last another 100 years, kind of deal?
Well, this money is specifically targeted to digitizing these documents so they're accessible. He has another governmental body that handles his budget, and we'll let them address the broader budget. Anything else?
Where will the information be available? Someone mentioned a website.
Yeah, so we'll publish it in the first instance on the website we run at Oxford, but we'll give a copy of the data as well to the university here. Obviously, running web applications is a huge infrastructure issue and one that I need to talk through with the university, but we'll make sure that data lives here as well as in Oxford.
And my vision, but the dean's in charge, would be to have an app so that lawyers, non-lawyers, journalists can just pull that Arkansas-specific app up and look for phrases, etc. Okay, we good?